For this program, I'm going to show using the get and the set functions and how that can affect the image. So again, I just have another p image declared here. I have an image that I'm going to use. I have some global variables set up here. I have a few different programs happening within this, so I've kind of have them commented out. We'll just kind of go through those one by one. Essentially, the first one I'm going to make is a sort of a pixelation. I'm going to grab pixel colors from the image and use that as a fill value to fill in rectangles. So it's going to make sort of a low resolution pixelated image. The other version I'm going to do is, well, there's controlling the same sort of thing, but just controlling the size then of the rectangles depending on the brightness of the image. And another thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, in the third version, grab pixels and then update them either above or below depending on sort of a random switch. And it distorts the image, kind of gives sort of a paint drip sort of appearance with it. So let's look at the first one here. I'm going to uncomment this, and so I'm going to take those out. So here I have no stroke. We could comment that out and you'll see the boxes, but essentially I'm going to fill in a variable. This variable is declared up here. It's just a color variable. And I'm going to get the values. Oh, I know what this one is. So actually I'm going to just show I'm going to get 1 pixel value at 200, 200, and I'm going to also, well, let's do this. Sorry. We're going to get a color from that pixel. We're going to fill it into this rectangle here that I'm going to draw into the center of the screen, and it's just going to be a 300 and 300 box. This is in full screen mode. So essentially it's just going to pick that pixel and it's just going to fill in the rectangle with it. So this is a pretty large rectangle, and there it is in the center of the screen. So that pixel was a green pixel, and there it is. So it just picked 1 pixel, but I got a color value from it and I was able to fill in that rectangle with it. The set is going to work a little bit different. So I'll take the rectangle out here. I don't need these two right now, but the set is going to, at 0, 0, it's going to start there, and it's going to get colors at the 200, 200, so that green pixel, but it's actually going to move out in a width and a height as well, so 400 off of that. So it's going to actually grab a pretty big chunk of colors, and it's going to display them here at the 0, 0. So essentially just going to take a selection of the image and just display it here in the top left corner. Okay, so you can see that that's happening. So in Photoshop, something like this is, of course, very simple to do, to make a selection and copy and paste it and move it around. So it's essentially what this is doing. It just made a selection of a different dimension, and it's just displaying it in a different part of the screen. So now we see that there is that the get allows, and I have a get within this function as well. So it's working the same thing. I'm just giving it some dimensions to it. So it gets whatever the color value is at that, whatever parameters that you're setting it. The set is then redisplaying it back into the window. So it's essentially how the get and the set are going to work together. So I'm going to put this, comment this back out again. And let's look at this next one. This one is, there's some changes in here. So essentially I'm going to get rows and columns, and I'm just using the image width and height, so I know how many of these I'm going to need. I'm using my embedded for loop here to iterate through all of them. The diameter is set up here at the top. I have it as a default of just 10 pixels. And I'm going to get colors. So the My Color, I'm going to go into the image, and I'm going to get pixel color at every X and Y. So essentially it's updated by 10. So every 10 pixels I'm going to grab a color, and I'm going to use that color here in this fill. This isn't necessary right now. This is when we can show that too. But so I'm putting it here into the fill, and then the rectangle is built at that X and Y coordinate, and it's given the same width and height as well that we're iterating through here. So this is the sort of low-res pixelated image. I left the stroke on it so you can see the black lines, but so it's pulling pixel color data, and it's filling a bunch of rectangles with those colors. And so it looks like the image, just a sort of a low-res version of it. So I was experimenting with trying to make the size of those rectangles different depending on the brightness of the image as well. But for now, let's move. Let me comment this out. Let me show you the next one as well. And this is an interesting effect where if we look at it again, we need another for loop. I'm putting it in the draw. So the other ones were still in the setup function because it just needed to run essentially once. It wasn't dynamic at all. The draw is going to be the repeating function. So this is going to kind of keep updating itself. So again, I'm cycling through the window. I could do just the image, but it's doing the entire window, and there's just this switching, and it just has a random number. And I'm just checking for, is it less than half of it? Is it greater? So what size? There's almost a so it's a pretty equal proportion of which ones are selected. And what I'm doing is that I'm setting a pixel at the X and Y, and I'm getting almost the same pixel, but I'm getting it here for one less, so one above. And if it's down here, then it's actually one below it. And so the image will just start kind of sliding and moving. It'll kind of conflict, where it's just going to start kind of pushing up and down sort of simultaneously. But it just sort of starts elongating those colors, and it just starts distorting the image in kind of an interesting way. So this is, again, just kind of ways you can use some of the arithmetic functions to kind of get around in that set function. Just different ways of trying to edit or influence the image that you're working with. So I thought this was kind of an interesting effect, and what's interesting also is that the longer you let this go, the more it sort of degrades and turns into something completely different. So that's that. I will put all of this code up so you guys can download it and play around with it.